hours upon hours looking at jobs online when finally you found the perfect job. You race to get your application in and wait for a call or email from the hiring manager so you can show them how perfect you are for their job. Then you get an email, but wait, it's with a recruiter? I don't want to talk to a recruiter. I want to talk to the hiring manager. They don't make the hiring decision anyway. Wrong! Building a relationship with the recruiter is just as important, if not more important, than doing so with the hiring manager. In this video, I'm going to give you all the tricks and tips you're looking for to help you build that important relationship with the recruiter that will help you land the perfect job. Welcome back to my channel, Ashley Gets You Hired. If you're new here, I'm Ashley and I have been in corporate recruiting for over 12 years. I have a true passion for helping people land the perfect job, and that is exactly why I created this YouTube channel, so that way I could share my passion and my knowledge of finding jobs with each and every single one of you. So if that sounds like something that you're interested in, make sure you hit that subscribe button, punch that notification bell, and give this video a good old like. A lot of candidates really underestimate the importance of a recruiter. They see us as just a gatekeeper, somebody that they need to get through in order to get to the hiring manager, and that the hiring manager is really the person that they need to impress, not the recruiter. But that couldn't be further from the truth. It is so important that you have a strong relationship with that recruiter, because if you give them a good first impression and they feel that you are a good candidate, they will pass you along to the hiring manager. If you don't treat that recruiter with respect or give them the attention that they deserve during the interview process, then chances are that hiring manager will never even see your resume. It's really important that you start building that relationship with the recruiter starting at the first interaction that you have with them. Now, recruiters are super busy people. I know that some people think recruiters just kind of sit around all day and wait for the ATS robot to just send us perfectly qualified candidates, but that could be further from the truth. We have to go through so many applications and resumes on a daily basis. The average recruiter is handling anywhere from about 30 to 40 positions at a time. In fact, at one point in my career, I was handling over 100 positions, and some positions have 100 or even more applicants. So you can just imagine the amount of resumes that we have to go through every single day. And because of that, I do recommend that candidates reach out to the recruiter on LinkedIn after they apply to a position. The keyword is after. You want to make sure that when you're reaching out to a recruiter that you have a specific role in mind. And also make sure that you're doing the best to find the correct recruiter to reach out to. For instance, if you're applying to a software engineering role and you go to the company's Facebook page and find a recruiter who says that they specialize in sales roles, that's not the recruiter you should be reaching out to. You should be looking for a tech recruiter with that company. So make sure you're mindful on who it is that you're reaching out to. I created an entire video on how to do exactly this. The best ways to reach out to recruiters on LinkedIn. So make sure that after this video, you are checking this video out, because not only am I giving you all the tricks and tips that you're looking for and how to effectively reach out to a recruiter on LinkedIn, but I give you a specific example of an email that I used to reach out to recruiting managers when I was unemployed just a few months ago. And spoiler alert, it works wonders, because I am now employed and my boss is actually someone I reached out to on LinkedIn when I applied to the position. So make sure you check that video out. Now, once a recruiter reaches out to you to schedule a phone interview, you might get an email from them that basically just gives you a link to set up some time on their calendar. Of course, go ahead and do that, but also respond to the email, thanking them for reaching out to you and reiterating how excited you are about the position itself. This will give the recruiter a really good first impression, because your email will be professional and you'll be thanking them for their time before they even interview you. A really important thing too is to make sure that you're treating your phone interview with the recruiter just as you would a phone interview or interview with a hiring manager. I've had so many times where I've reached out to candidates. They have scheduled a time on my calendar for us to connect. They completely forgot that I was going to call them, and they're either driving or they're at work, like whispering in the corner. So make sure that you are setting up a time where you can be in a quiet place and focused on the interview. And also come prepared. Like I said, treat this phone interview just as you would an interview with the hiring manager, because this is the opportunity for you to really show the recruiter that you would be a great fit for the position. And a lot of times in this initial conversation with a recruiter, they might not have all the technical pieces of the job that they're necessarily testing you on. Really what they're doing is looking at your personality, making sure that there's no major red flags, making sure that you meet the basic qualifications of the position, but they're really mostly looking at how you answer questions and if your communication skills and your personality will be a good fit for the company. Now, during the phone interview, a recruiter most likely will ask you where you are at in the interview process. Meaning, are you interviewing with other companies? Do you have any offers on the table? This isn't a trick question. It's a very simple question. And the reason why they're asking you this is because they want to get an idea of your timeline. If you are in the final interview stage with another company, and we're still early on in the interview stage here, they might want to know that so that way they can let the hiring manager know, like, hey, you know what, if you're really interested in this candidate, they are in final interview stages, you need to get them through the process quickly. So being upfront about where you're at in the interview process might actually give you a little bit of a leg up on the competition, because they might try to expedite the interview process with you and make it quicker so that way they can make their hiring decision quicker in case you get another offer on the table at the same time. I've had so many situations where I've worked so hard with a candidate through the entire interview process, and then and they've told me that they didn't have any offers on the table, and then I go to make them an offer and then they're like, oh, I just accepted an offer yesterday. Like, if I would have known that, I would have told you not to accept anything because I'm in the process of getting you an offer. So, I mean, just make sure that you're being open with your communication with the recruiter. They are on your side. Trust me, they want you to get hired just as much as you do for this position, because A, it's one less job on their plate that they need to worry about, and two, some recruiters, depending on if they're a corporate recruiter or not, which in most cases this isn't the case, but they might have some kind of, commission or something like that, or a bonus. So they want to get their jobs filled as quickly as possible. A lot of recruiters, even corporate recruiters, have goals that they need to meet just as much as agency recruiters. After your phone interview with the recruiter, I highly, highly recommend that you send them just a quick little thank you email. It doesn't need to be anything too extravagant. It doesn't need to be multiple paragraphs long. It can just be a couple of sentences. It really will help the recruiter remember you, and it's also great for a recruiter to hear that they are appreciated, because I can probably count on just two hands the amount of times that I've gotten a thank you email from a candidate after a phone interview. It doesn't happen very often. And I'll tell you what, I am more likely to move a candidate forward to the hiring manager, as long as it was a good phone interview, if they take that extra step to thank me for their time. So it doesn't need to be anything crazy. It can be just a few lines. For example, this is how I would put one together. Hi Ashley, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to speak to me about the blank position at blank company. I really enjoyed our conversation and learning more about blank company. I am more excited to move forward in the interview process now more than ever. Please do not hesitate to reach back out to me and let me know if there's any additional information that you need from me in order to move me along in the process. I look forward to hearing from you, and I hope you have a great day. There you go. Quick, simple, easy to put together. So do make sure you're taking that extra step to send a thank you note to the recruiter. You won't regret it. Another thing is, you really want to be careful as far as how you communicate with your recruiter. There is such thing as over communicating and being pushy, and no recruiter likes a pushy candidate. I always try to tell my candidates exactly where we're at in the process, and I try to give them a timeline as far as when I'm going to have an answer for them or an update for them. But it's kind of a loose timeline, because there's things that might come up that we don't anticipate, such as delays in hearing back from the hiring manager, or we're out sick, or we have new positions that come in that are high priority and we need to switch things around a little bit, or the hiring manager maybe needs to take a break, or they're out sick, or something like that. There's so many different factors that could adjust the timeline that a recruiter gives you as far as feedback, and you have to really kind of give them grace when it comes to that. This should be a given, but be respectful to the recruiter. I can't tell you how many times I had candidates that really, you could tell that they did not want to talk to me, that they thought that the conversation with me was a waste of time. I've had some candidates that were just straight out disrespectful to me. A really funny story, I mean, it's not a funny story, but kind of an example of this is I interviewed a candidate when I worked at a bank. And this candidate was applying for just a banker position. And he was very, very well educated. And he was referred by someone else that someone knew. It was a friend of a friend, whatever. And so I decided to reach out to him and interview him for the position. But during the interview, he was very, very well educated. He had like 2 master's degrees, studied abroad. I mean, I was very impressed by his background. But during the interview with me, he said, "Now, I don't know what your educational background is, but I have 2 master's degrees." And it was almost like thinking, like, the way he said it was that he was better than me because he has 2 master's degrees. Let me tell you, it was so hard for me to turn around and say, "I only have a bachelor's degree, but I have a job." Obviously, I didn't say that, but I was really tempted to. But he just came off as very arrogant, and whenever I asked him if he had any questions about the position or the company, he goes, "No, I'm just going to save my questions for the manager." Which, fair enough, you want to ask the manager questions, but you still want to ask the recruiter questions. Like, even if you ask the same questions to the hiring manager later on in the process, we're never going to know. So it shows that you're interested in the position and that you're taking the conversation seriously. I warned the hiring managers about the attitude that he had. They still wanted to interview him, and they ultimately felt the same way I did. We didn't hire him. But when I called him to tell him that we weren't moving forward and that we were taking a pass, he said to me, he goes, "Well, I know that you didn't hire somebody more qualified than me, because the only other person more qualified than me is Warren Buffett." For those of you who don't know who Warren Buffett is, well, you probably do. He's a very, very rich and successful businessman. So, yes, he was comparing himself to Warren Buffett. And I mean, it's just something I'll always remember, but it's like, wow, now I'm really not considering you for any other roles with this company. And I put a note like, do not hire this guy. So just always make sure that you're respectful, and you don't come off as like that you don't want to talk to the recruiter, because it is a very important step in an interview process. So just always remember that. Now, let's say you make it to the offer stage. Now, this stage is very important, and you really want to have that relationship built with your recruiter, because if you get an offer and it's not what you expected it to be, going back to the recruiter to try to negotiate a higher salary, that's going to be the person that you go to, not the hiring manager. Now, the recruiter doesn't have much say as far as if they can give you a higher salary or not. That's ultimately decided by the hiring manager as well as the compensation team, if the company has a compensation team. But there are many times when I had a candidate who I really, really liked. We had a really good rapport. I was so excited to give him the offer. He did great in the interview, and I was so excited for him to come and join our company, but he countered. He countered by $5,000. So not a huge counter, but a counter. And I went back to the hiring manager and I gave my 2 cents as far as why I felt that this person, deserved more money, which I knew would get approved by compensation because it was within the hiring salary range that compensation gave us. So basically I knew it was up to the hiring manager, and I made sure to go to bat for the candidate, because I just felt that, I felt like this person was a good person and deserved a little extra money. So like I said, building that relationship with the recruiter is sometimes even more important than building it with the hiring manager, because that might be an extra person that you have on HR that's going to have your back when it comes to offer negotiations. I also highly recommend that when you start a new job, on your first day, send the recruiter a thank you email or ping them on like Slack or MS Teams, depending on what your company uses, saying, thank you so much for your help. I started today, everything's going great, because it's always good to have someone in HR on your side, especially on recruiting, if there's an internal job that you're interested in the future, things like that. So keep that relationship with that recruiter even after you start. They could be that person that could help propel your career even further within the organization. Now, building a relationship with a recruiter from a company that you're actually applying to and in the interview process with is very important, but that's not all. It is also very important to build a relationship with a recruiter or leave a good first impression with a recruiter for a company that you're not in the interview process with. So, for instance, when I got laid off, I applied to a ton of positions. Obviously, I was unemployed and I needed a job quick. I applied to probably about 50 positions or more within a few weeks. I ended up getting a position pretty quickly, but while I was in the pre-employment screening phase, or even like right after I started my job, I did get a couple of emails from recruiters responding, reaching out to me about my application for roles that I had applied to. Now, obviously, because I found a new job, I was not interested in moving forward with them through the interview process. And instead of ignoring their email, inviting me to do a phone interview with them, I responded to the email and I thanked them for considering me for their position and told them that I have accepted another offer at this time, but that I would love to stay in touch with them if anything were to change on my end in the future. And that's it. And then you want to know what I did? Is I have a little folder in my email that I put that email into. And I think I have like 2 or 3 of them that I put those emails into, because now I have the contact information for a recruiter that I already know is interested in my background. So if something happens at my current job and I leave, or I decide that it's not a good fit and I need to find another job, I already have contact information from a recruiter from another company, and I already know that that recruiter liked my background because they had reached out to me before. Now, they may not have something available at that time, but you can open the door again to that relationship in the future. So there you have it. Those are my tips and tricks for how to build a relationship with a recruiter. I hope that you found this video to be helpful to you in your job search. Always remember that the recruiter is not just a gatekeeper. They are a very important part of the hiring process, and it is very important to make sure that you're treating all the recruiters with respect and that you are building that relationship with them, because that will only help you land the job quicker. So thank you so much, everyone. I hope that you all have a fantastic day, and I will see you at the next one.